Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Left of Straight Show Interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. Hey friends, today in the Left of Straight Show Interviews, I am thrilled to welcome back to the show Brian Falduto is in studio with me. He's a singer-songwriter and also affectionately known as the Gay Life Coach. Brian first stepped into the spotlight as a child actor, but has since evolved into a multi-talented singer, songwriter, and certified professional coach. He's done extensive coaching work, deeply rooted in mental health and mindfulness, supporting individuals in the LGBTQ plus community to help navigate their journey with curiosity, context, and compassion. However, alongside his impactful coaching career, Brian is a gifted singer-songwriter, and his latest single covers Dolly Parton's "Why'd You Come In Here Looking Like That?" and it continues to showcase his distinctive voice and heartfelt storytelling, often echoing the experiences and emotions of our queer community. I'm excited to welcome back to the show, but first, take a look.
Why'd you come in here looking like that? In your cowboy boots and your painted on jeans, all decked out like a cowboy's dream. Why'd you come in here looking like that? Here comes my baby, dragging my heart behind, he's driving me crazy. Who says love is blind? He's got a wandering eye and a traveling mind, big ideas and a little behind. Out with a different fella every night, but I remember when he was mine. Why'd you come in here looking like that? In your high-heeled boots and your painted-on jeans, all decked out like a cowboy's dream, waltzing right in here looking like that. Why'd you come in here looking like that? When you can stop traffic in a gunny sack, why you're almost giving me a heart attack. When you waltz right in here looking like that. I just can't stand it to see him on the town. He's out so dancing with every guy around. I'm a soft-hearted fella, he's a hard-headed man, and he's gonna make me feel just as bad as he can. He's got himself a mean streak a half a mile wide, but now he's dancing on this heart of mine. Why'd you come in here looking like that? In your high-heeled boots and your painted-on jeans, all decked out like a cowboy's dream. Why'd you come in here looking like that? Why'd you come in here looking like that? When you can stop traffic in a gunny sack, why you're almost giving me a heart attack. When you waltz right in here looking like that.
Well, Brian Falduto, welcome back. We have you live in studio. I think we had you here back in 2006 or 2020, I think, when there was something going on called a pandemic or something, and we talked by phone. Welcome to the studio, my friend.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you for
Been a bit, but man, you just keep on trucking on. You've been doing such great work with your coaching and now doing this music of almost full time, it seems. Congratulations, all your successes.
Thank you. Yeah, still doing the coaching thing. The music thing's kind of, it's in high gear at the moment, which is exciting.
Well, I think back in 2020, you were recently listed like one of the 20 most influential and outspoken, optimistic people on the planet. That's kind of a good thing to have. Are we still able to keep that positive attitude while you're out there living in the world these days?
Yeah, I mean, most days. I was listening to your intro of me, and I was like, I would love to hear this every morning because it really it's a good
I
reminder
like
of
it.
because there's days that are tougher, and then there's days that are not so tough. But yeah, mostly positive. Yes.
Well, I'm loving the new music you've been having lately, and I think when we talked last, you had we talked about your getting into the country. You'd worked for a college radio station in country music for a while, right?
I did. That was my first job out of college. I was in country music radio for nearly 4 years, and that was in my early 20s. So I feel like in your early 20s is when you're going through a lot of stuff, and country music was very much a part of my life when I was going through a lot of that stuff, and so it was also kind of there for me in a lot of ways. I was leaning on it in times of me figuring myself out, which we're all doing in our early 20s, I feel like. And so yeah, that was going on.
Right. And then you branded yourself as the gay life coach, which I love. I love your motto. It's like, love yourself and share your story. It's such a great way for people to kind of work out some of their passions and their traumas and kind of find out what's going on. How was that? How rewarding was that? And you still get to do that at least part-time, right?
Yeah. I'm still coaching. I'm just not like plugging it quite as much as I used to because it's kind of it can be a lot to put yourself out there in so many different mediums, and music is already such a vulnerable thing to be constantly sort of marketing for yourself. And the coaching thing is kind of self-sustaining at the moment. And I was just kind of like, I'm going to refrain from coaching content for a little bit and just focus on the music, which has been helpful just for my own brain. But yeah, I mean, the love yourself, share your story. That's a little tag that I was using back when I was pushing my content out a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, I feel like it's just a testament to what I've been, my journey, because I feel like all of my power as an artist just comes from sharing myself vulnerably. And so I try and help people, sort of tap into their story vulnerably and authentically as a coach. And yeah, that's pretty much. And you gotta love what you see in yourself,
Right. And I was going to ask, I mean, you have to try to balance that dual career. It's hard to be good at any one thing if you're not concentrating on it the whole time, right? So you're doing part music, part that. What kind of draws you to each, and how do you kind of make that so you're fulfilled as well?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to storytelling for me. Like, my music is how I tell my story, and then coaching is how I help other people tell theirs. And even if it's just sharing it with me and helping them better understand their own story, it's still a really valuable process, I feel like. And that's really all artistry is, right? It's just like reflecting stories back to other people and letting people learn from stories and holding a mirror up to, our own humanity and letting people see that. So and a lot of my coaching is mental health focused, and they say that psychology is kind of the arts of the sciences. So it all sort of is in the same sphere for me, at least, and it is all have to do with artistry and telling stories. But yeah, it can be a little confusing sometimes to navigate both at the same time.
Well, and we talked about it back then. I think it's even more important now. Talking about bringing mindfulness into there. You need to be able to center yourself each day, and I'm sure just all of that, just helping with that, kind of helps your own career as well, right? Kind of the advice you give to others back, mindfulness, and we need to take some time to ourselves each day and have some purpose in what we're doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I learn all the time from my sessions with my clients. They're often just an opportunity to ground myself and listen and be present. And just sharing compassion and humanity with another person can be an opportunity to get present. And especially with the music thing, like the beginning of the music process is always very present and inspired, but then once you start putting stuff out there, it's really easy to get on that like treadmill of the algorithms and the release charts and all these things. And so it's great. It's good to have a practice to just come back to and remind myself of what matters, which is just the present moment and the people around me and the relationships I'm forming. So yeah, it's good to have that grounding opportunity.
I love that. And we did talk last time about your acting, of course, in School of Rock and everything. How does your acting inform your music now? Does it kind of help you see a whole picture and everything? Are you able to still incorporate that into what you do? Or you still have much interest in being in front of the camera more than just your music videos?
Yeah, I mean, I love acting. I still go to acting class all the time. I find it very therapeutic, and it's just a great way to sort of, um, again, it's a great way to understand yourself. You come up against a lot of your own obstacles and boundaries in your acting work. When you need to like be emotional in a certain way or experience any type of human feeling or relationship, um, in a certain role, you have to like sort of embody that in yourself. And sometimes you come up against your own like baggage or your own protective things that you have over time that won't let you go to that place, right? So it can be very therapeutic in a way to sort of see yourself and work through things. And in my music videos I'm acting. I'm not pursuing acting as actively anymore because it's out of all the careers I've done, it's probably the easiest I've gotten burnt out in. um Mostly because, I mean, there are a lot of people sort of doing the independent actor thing where they're like writing their own content and putting themselves in it and directing and producing. But I'm not really interested in that from an acting perspective. And so a lot of my opportunities as an actor only came when someone cast me in something. And so it was a lot of just like waiting around or spending the entire day filming a self tape just to like never hear back about it or maybe get a call back and then spend a whole nother day submitting, because everything's virtual these days, right? And you don't even get to go into the audition room anymore and connect with people. And it was just like a very lonely, exhausting process for me. And music, on the other hand, with the formats these days, with the streaming, with the social media, there's so much you can do to advance your career forward. You can put music out, you can put up shows in like local venues. And I just feel like I have a lot more control over how I'm putting myself out as an artist now. I don't remember what your original question was, but that's the answer, right?
I hear you. I hear you. And New York is a different kind of an acting space to begin with. You have all the Law and Orders, procedurals, and movies that come into town, and some movies made there. But it's, unless you're a Broadway person or a play person, New York is a very different type of acting scene. So it's you have to have specific kind of skill sets and wants and agents, and it's a whole thing. So I understand that.
Totally. And then like if an opportunity came along, I would happily pursue it. Sometimes I have friends who are working on projects and I'll read for them or I'll go in and I'll film something. And it's not that I'm not doing it, I'm just not actively pursuing it because honestly, as we just mentioned, life coaching and music take up a lot of time and I just don't have the capacity really.
I understand that. Now, talk about what kind of themes do you find yourself being drawn into your music these days? I remember when we talked last, you were attending a new church, you had some spiritual music going along with your country and everything. What's motivating you what's inspiring you these days for your music?
Yeah, so it's evolved a little bit from the I think last we talked I had put out a song called God Loves Me Too, which is about my experience growing up as a gay man in church. And anyone who liked that will still like my new stuff. I think it's still very honest and it's just authentic storytelling about my experience. And I never really viewed myself as a spiritual artist. I'm a very spiritual person. And that was just a story I needed to tell because it felt really like it was kind of needing to come out of me. But now what I'm doing with my music is kind of revisiting the sounds of country music that I grew up on, the 90s, the 2000s, and the stuff I never really saw myself in, though, and I'm just kind of telling them from my perspective, which is a queer perspective, and I think a lot of people are resonating with that because a lot of people have felt left out by country music for some time now. And yeah, that's kind of just what I'm doing. I'm just revisiting those sounds of country music that we all love and just making them queer, essentially.
Well, it's an exciting genre, and I love when people explore it more. I mean, I have had Andrew Mitch is a new country musician out of Nashville. It's really fun. We talked about my friend Hayden down in Nashville before, and of course, we have people starting to emerge. But it's such a storytelling craft, and I think that's one of your background. You're so good with stories and everything, and it really lets you take that experience, but really give it that gender flip and kind of make it more accessible to the LGBTQ community, right?
Yeah, totally. And my biggest song to date is called Same Old Country Love Song, and it's basically the chorus goes, "It's the same old country love song, but it's gay," and it's just kind of a play on the fact that this shouldn't be this crazy thing. Really, all we're doing is telling the same stories. I'm just singing about a guy instead of a girl, and we're doing the same thing with the Dolly cover I just put out, really, because that Dolly song is one that all of us know and love. And I'm just singing it, in a very similar fashion to the way she sang it, but I'm singing it about a guy. And so that there it is. Again, it's the same old country love song, but it's gay,
I absolutely love it. Now, I think we talked about your writing process. You're kind of a lyrics guy. You used to get a lot of your inspiration just from driving around in your travels while you're doing things. Are you still kind of inspired by your surroundings, or talk to me about your writing process lately?
Yeah, I'm mostly a lyrics guy. I do very well with writing when I'm traveling or on long walks. I write an emotion a lot. I don't do great just like sitting down and being like, come up with something. I get ideas on the go a lot. I've been doing a lot of co-writes recently, which are really helpful to kind of get the wheels turning. And then what I'll do is I'll take the song and kind of finish it on my own. You'll spend like 3-4 hours with a fellow songwriter, and you'll brainstorm some ideas, or you'll talk about ideas you've had recently, or a hook you're playing around with, or like a lyric that's come to mind, and you just kind of snowball off each other for a while. And then I usually take the song and I go finish it and I do the arrangement on my own, and that's really fun. It with how busy I've been, that's a really helpful process because you get a good bulk of the song done during that time, and then it's more just about finessing it and finishing it and polishing it off. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm in like my first ever happy relationship, so I've actually felt a little less inspired to write, which I hate to sound like Taylor Swift, but I guess what they say is true. Music has always been an outlet for my emotional pain, and I'm not feeling as much like emotional pain these days. I'm pretty content in a relationship, which is like nice, and so I'm trying to write love songs, which is just making me ugh. But it's fun.
That's a new experience. Yeah, I mean, you need to have it. All music comes from emotion, so it's just kind of tapping into it. It just seems pain is easier for some reason to talk about because we just need to get that shit out right away, right? For love, it's a little more one-on-one with the person you're in it with, I think.
I know, and it's almost like, I think I actually put this into a song, this sentiment, but it's almost like a lot of times writing is how I process something, and it's usually after the experience has happened. And so I've almost been like a little afraid to put this love into a song because then it will feel like it's already happened. Like I think there's like a subconscious desire to like not have this be over. And so I don't want to write about it because there's nothing to process. But obviously that's not true. I just think that's like a subconscious fear of mine. But I wrote a song about that, and that was actually really cool.
Gotcha. It's just such an emotional place, like I said, and yeah, that's kind of an interesting lines have to draw there. Talk about the challenges. I mean, you've been performing live in a couple of venues and things like that. Is there any challenges as an openly queer artist to find the spaces to perform in? Is there any just challenge in getting the music out there? What's been the harder roads for pursuing your music a little more?
Yeah, I mean, as a queer country artist, well, I don't know. When I had the concept for this album, calling it Gay Country and putting it out there and really just owning the fact that this is queer music that's country, it felt like a really original idea. But that was like 3 years ago when I had the idea for the album. And now what's awesome is we're in this world of streaming music and social media, and there's actually a lot of queer artists emerging. And so there is an audience for it, and so people are kind of latching on to what I'm putting out there alongside other queer musicians, and it's really cool. I still think country music radio and like some of the mainstream country outlets have a long way to come before they're going to embrace queer voices as much as they should be. And I think a lot of that just has to do with some of the people who are listening to country music, right? And some resistance to change. But luckily, we don't need those gatekeepers of mainstream country music to like approve of us anymore, because there are so many lanes for country music now with how many formats you can listen to music in. So that's exciting. And like, yeah, I'm mostly playing like Pride festivals. I don't think even like CMA Fest, they have got a Pride stage now. People are trying their best to like include us.
Right.
But there is still a little bit of ways to go before I'm like headlining, the most
Well, and plus the
common
music
country
is changing
festival.
so much now. I mean, you've been doing this for a while now, and we went from to all the streamings where you're getting 2 cents for every 1,000 streams or something. But people are able to start putting out their own music now. And just like I think we're seeing the resurgence of it in television. I talked to a lot of entertainers, of course, and with the strikes, everything going on, we're going back to web series and people creating their own content. And I think music is one place where artists can always have a little more control of their music anymore. I mean, there's such great I know a lot of people sending their sound out of the country and everything because there's such great people to collaborate with. So I think you can kind of take your artistry and run with it a little more in a solo career than you don't need to have necessarily that label behind you, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, if a label does want to get behind me, that'd be awesome. But at the same time, there is a lot that I can do independently. And to a degree, I have had some conversations with people who I could have signed with, and it just didn't always feel like the best opportunity because I do feel like some of the autonomy that I have at the moment would have been lost, So there are some benefits to being an independent musician nowadays. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. What are your musical influence? I mean, I loved having Dolly's song back in the day. Casey Musgraves, of course, you were a big fan of. Anyone you're listening to more now? I mean, we had a Beyonce country song. Who would have thought that? I mean, that's crazy. Talk about your influences now and who you're listening to these days.
Yeah, I mean, I am loving the new Beyonce project. It's very well crafted, I feel. And yeah, my music that I'm releasing is very much inspired by the sounds I grew up on, as I mentioned. So it's very like Rascal Flatts, Shania Twain, Faith Hill, Carrie Underwood, Zac Brown Band, The Chicks, things that I was listening to back in like late 90s, early 2000s. That's kind of what I'm putting out. But it's not necessarily what I'm listening to. I'd say what I'm listening to is a little bit more a little left of mainstream country these days. So anything in like the Casey Musgraves sphere, as you mentioned, she's a huge inspiration. Brandi Carlile, Kelsey Ballerini, I love what she's doing these days. I am inspired by a lot of country music females. I think that they've been honestly some of the most pivotal people in the changes that have come in country music because they've had to go against the grind so often. And I think a lot, that's why I'm so inspired by them, is because a lot of the newer sounds and the changes that have come in country music are a result of a lot of the women needing to, stand out in order to make it.
That's great. What advice would you start giving to some young LGBTQ individuals, either aspiring to become an artist or even coaching? What are you are you able to mentor people these days? And do you have people reaching out to you still? I mean, you had so many great articles when you were doing your blogging and your podcasting and so inspiring. Are you still people reaching out? What advice would you give right now to the younger LGBTQ generation for music and for coaching or just getting through life?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the big advice is, it sounds cliche, but just be yourself. But no one told me that when I was growing up, so I'm trying my best to get the message out there because I really wish I had gotten it. And yeah, I mean, even with art, for example, you are the only you that's ever existed. And so if you tell a story honestly from your perspective, it's going to be interesting naturally just by the fact that you're interesting because you are the only you. And I think people need to lean into that more. And if it's truthful, it's going to be truthful for someone else too, because truth is shared. It's something we all share within our humanity. And so I really encourage people to just lean into what makes them them. And that can also be said from a coaching perspective too. A lot of it is just understanding yourself, developing self-awareness, and then learning to accept the things that you become aware of about yourself. And that's what leads to confidence. Self-awareness plus self-acceptance equals confidence is what I like to always say in my coaching sessions. And yeah, that's kind of the advice I would give, to just be yourself. Even things that, 10 years ago, I was like, this is so embarrassing, I should never tell anyone this. They're like cool now. You know what I mean? Like and you just got to own it. And eventually it's going to come around and it's going to be something you wish you owned when it was your thing. Because otherwise you're going to be late to the party. So just go own whatever it is that you're into or that makes you you. If it's not cool now, it will be, I promise.
Well said. It definitely, things come in and out of fashion quite a bit. That goes for everything. So, yeah, I agree 100%. What would you say has been some of the most rewarding parts of your journey so far, both in music and in your coaching? What do you look back on fondly and remember as just man, really made a difference, or I was really glad that I was able to share that with somebody?
Um, yeah, I mean, pretty much anytime I get a message from someone, it still really impacts me. I think people don't know. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. But the grind of being an independent artist is real. And I have days where I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And so to get messages in my DMs that are supportive, or even just to get a testimonial from a client I've been working with for a while, these are all things that keep me going, and they are encouraging. I think to a degree, a lot of my self-work goes around just sustaining myself within this career and not relying on external validation. But the external validation is helpful, and we are all human and we all want it and we all need it to a degree. So I think, when people send these messages that my song means something to them, or that my music video was relatable and it helped them, feel seen, that's all helpful to me. And it really impacts me.
And that leads perfectly into my next question. How do you measure success for yourself in your life and career? What makes you happy at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Honestly, I've actually been really working on that question a lot this past year, if I can be fully honest here. I was listening to Brene Brown's research on hopelessness, because she's an emotions researcher, and she said that hopelessness is what you experience when you feel like you cannot achieve the things that you say you're going to do, or the goals that you have for yourself. And I was like, sometimes I do feel hopeless. I was like, what is that about? And then I was like, and she said, hope happens when you believe in your ability to do the things that you say you're going to do, and that the things you set out for yourself. And I realized that a lot of my goals are a little vague. And so I've been trying my best to get really specific and intentional about what my goals are, so that I can feel more hopeful in achieving them. Because, for example, if I just have this goal of being a successful country music artist, what does that look like? It's a very vague goal, and I'm sort of constantly scrambling, trying to get there, and I don't really have any parameters for what that means. And so it can feel kind of hopeless chasing that sometimes, right? But what if my goal is to make this amount of money this year as a country music artist, or to play this many cities this year as a country music artist? Having those little smaller tangible things that I can reach for makes me feel a lot more hopeful, because I'm like, oh, I can achieve that,
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And how are you at now sharing and opening yourself up? I mean, we've all had where you had to make it alone. We've had toxic relationships. Now, and you're in a great relationship, do you find it hard to share this journey with someone else, or is it just a big sigh of relief and just exciting to see a journey together for both of you? How do you guys navigate that part of the relationship, encouraging each other to do their best?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like my relationship with my family growing up was a little difficult, in that I never felt really supported. So I know that I was really looking for that in a partner, someone who just like came to shows and got excited about release days for my music, and he definitely does all that, and he's very supportive. And I think the way I support him is just by letting him continue to evolve. I don't really have any clear idea of like who he needs to be in his career, or like what he wants to do with his hobbies. And I think, the other day he came to me and he was like, I want to try this. And I was like, cool, great. Like, I think just, being really open to whatever is feeling inspired at the moment, or whatever sort of evolution is taking place within each other. I imagine if I ever have a kid, that will also be like a big effort of mine. It's just, if my kid comes to me and is like, I want to try this, or I want to experiment with these pronouns, right, or whatever it is, just like, yeah, okay, cool, let's get curious about it, right? And I think that we support each other in that way. But just the other half that came up for me in answering your question is that relationships are hard. I've never been in this long of a relationship, and I just, if anyone's out there thinking it's all fucking walk in the park, I said a bad word, I'm sorry. If it's all if it's all a walk in the park, it's not. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of communication, and it can be exhausting at times, but in a great way. Like, it's a good use of time and energy.
Yeah, and I think you said I've always felt that it's I think goals are important, but expectations can ruin things, right? I mean, it's great for people to have goals and support each other's goals when they come to you and say, I want to try XYZ. It's great to support the goal, but to have expectations of what they need to do to achieve that, that can be really difficult for yourself and for other people. I think expectations are tough. Goals are great, but that's been my
really well
personal
put.
experience.
Yeah.
What do you see coming down the future here for you? Are you writing more songs right now? Are you looking to start pulling it together into an EP and marketing it? Where are you at in the song process now and in your music career right now?
Yeah, so we have a deluxe version of my 2023 project dropping in June. So my 2023 album was called Gay Country. We have a deluxe version of that dropping in June with some new songs and new versions of songs previously released, which is exciting for me. I'm a bit like a perfectionist, unfortunately, and I have just these different ideas for songs, and I couldn't let this project die without releasing the other ideas I had for the song. So that's basically what's happening. I'm getting every iteration of these songs out that's been in my mind, and then I have a couple ideas from there. I have so many songs that need to be recorded. It's overwhelming. But I don't really know the direction I want to take. A big goal with my deluxe album was to put some songs on there that hint a little bit to where I'm going. As I mentioned, the project is generally very 90s, 2000s country, but some of the songs I'm adding, even the Dolly cover, if you listen to it, you can tell there's a little bit of folk in there. There's a little bit of I don't know. There's a little bit of a rootsier element that's not so pop country. And I'm trying to allude that I think I'm going to be still in the country sphere, but just a little, my foot off the pedal of the gas on it being so poppy. I just have a lot I want to say. And I feel like sometimes pop music is a little constraining with that. And I want to live in some softer sounds or some folkier sounds and really just maybe create some more introspective music.
Nice. Well, I am excited to be hearing more from you. I'm so excited to have you back on the show, my friend. This is a great to meet again and to hear this great new music, and the new cover is so much fun. So congratulations on all the success.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you having me back. And yeah, I'm glad to hear you're doing well, and thanks for having me.
Well, let everyone know where they can find your fantastic website. It goes over both your music and, of course, your coaching, if people are reaching out for that. Give them the website where they can find you on social media and where they can find this new music.
Yeah, it's just my name, Brian Falduto, F as in Frank, ALDUTO.com. Or you could just find me on the socials with just my name, Brian Falduto.
Amazing. Well, stay on the line for me, my friend. I appreciate it. Guys, be sure to check out Brian's new music. If you're looking for some great advice, his coaching skills are just excellent. We're going to have Brian back next week for a little fun 5 questions wish, so be sure to tune in for that. As always, we appreciate you listening to Left of Straight Show interviews. If you're listening on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe or hit that little notification bell. We appreciate you. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Straight Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website for contests and other news and information. See you next week.